What's up, guys? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So, today I'm gonna go ahead and go through how we can configure Firewall on our Windows server. I do have Windows 2019 server running, and the reason why I want to do this is I want to configure firewall policies within my SCCM, but I do not have any Windows firewall configured on my server, so it's basically going to be very impossible for you. You can still go ahead and do it, but it's more better if you configure the firewalls within your Windows server, and then once you're done, you can configure the firewalls in your SCCM server as well. So let's get started. So I do have my domain controller server right here, and if you're new to Windows server, to be able to navigate and find how you can do this, you open the server manager. Once it loads up, and you go to tools, and then you look for group policy management. Now, I already have it, pinned to my taskbar, so I don't need to do this every time. So you click on it, and it opens the group policy management. Now, I already got it here pinned to my taskbar. So once it opens up, this is your forest, and pretty much everything within your domain or your organization is set up here. If you only have one forest within your organization. Now let's expand that. We have domains, we have sites, we have group policy modeling, we have group policy results. Let's expand domain. Now we do have our domain right here. Now let's expand that as well, and then we do have our default policy object. Now click on that. It will say this. Don't worry about it. Just say OK, and then you can right click on it and then select edit. Now let's enlarge that, and then this is pretty much where we configure our firewall settings and our group policies on our client computers and everything. This is where we do it. So let's go to, because we are dealing with a firewall, it's something that is going to be applicable to computers. So under the computer configuration, let's select policies, and then since it's the firewall, let's select Windows settings, because it's a setting that we need to configure within our computers. And then once we select that, we select security settings, and then under security settings, we want to look for Windows Defender Firewall. Now there it is, Windows Defender Firewall. We expand that, and there it is, Windows Firewall Advanced Security. Now we can click on that, and then once we click on that, this pops up. Now this is actually where we can configure our firewall settings within our Windows server, because it says Windows Defender Firewall stats is not configured, so we need to configure it here. So once we get on this settings, we then have to click Windows Firewall Properties, and then this is where we have to configure Windows Firewall settings. So as you can see, it's not turned on. We need to turn it on. It's not configured. We need to configure it. On inbound connections, this should be blocked by default. Now we need to block this. We can only turn it on if we do have inbound connection rules set up to allow specific devices or specific applications to go through inbound connections. But if not, uh, we just need to turn it on. So how that works is, so sometimes, we do have applications and packages that needs to go through the firewall. So in that case, we need to, create an inbound connection rule which will allow the package to go through, but usually mostly we need to block incoming connections. So for our domain profile, the domain profile is basically used for networks where there is a system of account authentication against an Active Directory domain controller. And for our private profile, it's mainly designed for and best used in private networks such as a home network or home computer lab. The public profile is designed for, to prevent, everybody, most especially if you're on the airport or you are at the cafe, you are at the coffee shops, hotels, you're on the Wi-Fi hotspots. It basically protects you from, getting any affected connections once you are on those networks. It is basically designed with higher security in mind for public networks. So what we're going to do is this settings we put on here will be the same for these three. So we turn the domain on, we block incoming connections, we allow outgoing connections by default. And what we're gonna do here is to make sure we wanna get audits for this firewall. So what we're gonna do is for audits and accountability purposes, we wanna customize this and make sure we get logs that we will review, and this is our path where we'll be getting the log files. Okay, now this, and okay, doesn't really matter. Okay, and let's do the same thing for our private profile. Log by default, allow by default, yes, yes, okay. And this should be done. Now, like I said, if we want to create any exceptions to these rules, to this firewall, we have to configure that through creating rules to our group policies. And that way we'll be able to, make an exceptions. IP IP6 settings. If you basically specify the users and computers that are authorized to establish IPsec tunnel connections. That's if you have such in your organization, but we don't. This is just training purposes, so we're gonna go okay, and then we do have our policies up and running. So as we can see, Windows Defender Firewall is on. Inbound connections that do not match a rule are blocked. Outbound connections that do not match the rules are allowed. For our domain profile, same for private profile, same for public profile. Now we can go ahead and create a group policy to define exceptions depending on what we want to allow through the firewall. And in our next coming videos, we will see how we can do that. So this is how you are able to, configure advanced firewall settings within our Windows Server 2019. So thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow for more videos. Stay tuned. Bye.